After the brief introduction, Jack got to know the names of his employees in this branch. Then, he thought for a moment and said, "You guys don't need to be stiff in my presence at all. All you need to do is work hard for the grocery store. As long as you guys work hard, there would be subsequent rewards for you." All of them immediately cheated after they heard that there would be rewards as long as they worked hard. As for the changes, for the time being, there will be no changes in the way that the business was operating. If there are any changes that I'd like to make, that'll take a little while longer, Jack said after the staffs calmed down. After that was done, he went with Daniel to the only office available. In case Daniel was at the headquarters of the grocery store, the one that would be using the office would be the person that was in charge of this branch, Wycliffe. Now that Jack was here, it was obvious that he would sit on the boss's chair. As soon as Daniel sat down, Jack spoke. "I've got several grocery stores in the city and am going to start a brand. So, I hope that you'll cooperate with others. I'll introduce them. As for now, there's one that's called George. He'll be delivering some products here later today." As Jack said this, he immediately gave Daniel George's contact information. "By the way, the supply of the stock and the methods of delivery, is there a problem?" Jack asked. "Currently, the contract that we had signed for the supplies is about to expire. So, there's a need for the renewal. Then, for the issue of deliveries, we always hire a vehicle with a freezer to do that." Daniel replied. "Okay, the issue of the contract, there's no need to worry about it. I've already signed a supply contract, so the stock wouldn't go down. Delivery, you can ask George. He's in charge of delivery. And if there's a problem of lack of enough vehicles, then you can just contact me and I'll get them." Jack nodded and replied. Daniel was surprised that there was an exclusive car that could be used to transport the grocery products. This would not only reduce the costs, it would also reduce the risks such as the driver running away with the goods or being careless and causing great losses. After he was done, Jack immediately got out of there together with Daniel as he visited the other branch and the main store. After that, he went and visited the other 4 stores that he'd just purchased. He left them with instructions before heading towards Yellow Street. He was thinking of buying a bigger shop so that he could transfer the current Alfix grocery store. This way, there would be no problems about the storage issues. After arriving at the store, he found both Agnes and Charles. Charles had thoroughly cleaned the store, and it looked better. There were a few customers coming in and out of the store as Jack parked the Bentley Continental GT. Of course, this was a car that was worth millions. As a result, there was a sensation as soon as Jack parked the Bentley outside the store. Although this wasn't the first time that such an expensive vehicle was coming to Yellow Street, it was rare to see one, not to mention one that was worth millions. Wow, what a handsome guy. I wish I can get a boyfriend like him. Hey, stop dreaming. Do you think that you're worth a person like him? He does look handsome and is rich. Is he some kind of second generation in the city or from outside? Hey, are you an idiot? Can't you see that the registration number is for Inchoate? Now that you mention it, do you know what that car is? Yes, I saw it on the internet. This is a Bentley Continental GT. It's worth $7,399,999. That expensive? Do you think it is a joke? Anyway, what family do you think he's from? Never heard of him before. Anyway, what is he doing here in Yellow Street? And a grocery store at that. There are several big grocery stores at the center of the city. What do you know? Maybe he just wants to try how the products in this part of the city taste like. I thought that the things in the grocery are the same. It's just that the quality is low in the grocery at this part of the city. That's what I meant. Who are you fooling? How can a rich person decide to leave better food so that he can come and eat lower quality ones? Have you never seen a rich person eating in a stall by the road? Jack cared none of this as he greeted both Agnes and Charles. According to them, George had left about an hour ago, so he should be closer to coming back. Jack nodded and then thought of something. Where you guys stay, is there a good parking space? He asked both Charles and Agnes. Both of them were stunned for a moment. What's the use of a parking lot if they had nothing to park there? As if noticing their questions, he said, the Bentley Bentayga Odyssean edition that I bought are for my employees. As long as it is work-related, the cars can be used. So, I was wondering whether there's a parking lot in your area that you can use the car in traveling. The two were immediately elated after hearing this. The boss treats his employees so well. They thought to themselves before bringing their minds back to the facts. Boss, where I live isn't suitable for the car of that price to be parked there. Not only is the space limited, but there are some people who can damage the car there. Dejected, Charles replied. The same here. Although the parking space is there, it's always full. The only place that we can use would be the government parking. Agnes replied. Jack had already been to George's place the previous night. He could see that there was no place for the car to be parked. That's the reason why he asked the two if they had a place that they could park the car. After thinking for a moment, he decided, "Can you guys relocate? I can get you an apartment with better conditions so that you can use it as staff's dormitory." "Why, yes, boss. But won't that be too much? After all, the expenses and the income that we bring in don't match at all. In fact, the expenses are higher than the income," Agnes said after some hesitation. "Don't worry about it. The business may be low now, but in the near future, maybe next month, you'll have to work harder. So, I am preparing you for a lot of work," Jack said. Upon hearing Jack's words, they remembered that he'd told them that he might put them in charge of groceries in 2 or 3 streets. That implied that he was going to expand the business. Furthermore, his action of buying many cars and at the same time having the employees getting the uniforms proved that he was rich and he wasn't going to run such a small store. After Jack left the store, he immediately headed towards alleviation agencies. He wanted to look for a good shop that could be used in Yellow Street. He wanted to get ready for the enterprise. They were a private one, and they could help him get an empty shop in the street. It didn't take long for him to get there. He headed to the familiar office. There, he found the familiar receptionist. Upon seeing Jack, the lady raised her brows in surprise but calmed down a little while later. "Great to see you again. How may I help you?" she asked as soon as Jack arrived in front of her and took his seat. "I want to get another shop. A bigger one, more than 5 times bigger, and it should be located at a place with a parking space. It should also be located at a good place for business," Jack stated. "I guess you'll have to talk with the manager. I can't deal with that operation." As the lady spoke, she immediately got from behind the counter and led Jack towards another office. There, he found that there was a middle-aged woman. She was busy with something on her computer as she didn't even raise her head when she asked the receptionist and Jack to enter. After about a minute, she raised her head and looked at Jack and the lady. Seeing that she was paying attention, the lady spoke. "Mr. Jack here wants to buy a shop in Yellow Street." The lady then went on to describe what Jack needed. After listening for a while, the woman looked at Jack in surprise as she spoke. "Oh, we do have that shop. It has been a little while since the last time that a person asked about it. After all, the price of the shop is higher, but the location of the shop is Yellow Street, which is a small place." Jack nodded. This was the truth. After all, who would dare to spend a lot of money to purchase a shop, and the spendings of the customers in the area wouldn't be able to bring back the money spent? Of course, only Jack would do that. So, after going through the price and the image of the shop, Jack immediately agreed and paid the price for the shop. It cost him a total of $832,579. He took the certificates and headed to the shop. Then, he immediately headed to the shop's location. The shop's position was good. The size was good as well. It was just a little bigger than Comest Grocers. Jack nodded in satisfaction. He decided that he was going to make this the main grocery store in the entire street. As for Alfix, since it was small, he would immediately shift to this new shop as soon as the logo and renovation was done. He then left the shop, heading towards the parking area that was a few hundred meters away. He was getting closer to the car when he heard a sarcastic voice coming from the side. "Isn't this Jack? It seems that you like sports cars, but you can't afford them." It was a male voice. Turning around, Jack was stunned upon seeing that the person who had just spoken was none other than Steve. And beside him, Brenda stood, looking at him with a sly smile. Jack had never expected that these two half-siblings would be able to find him even after he had left their mansion. Furthermore, he had made sure not to tell anyone where he was going to. But now, seeing that the two of them were here at the same time, then this was by no means a coincidence. They must have known where he was. Thinking things through, Jack immediately thought of the taxi that he'd used to get here. He remembered that it was Brenda that had called for it, and not he himself. That implied one thing: the driver had agreed to disclose his information. Although Jack was irritated, he still didn't blame that guy. After all, if he dared to go against Brenda, it was a sure bet that his life wouldn't end well. Jack simply took a deep breath and looked at the duo before asking, "What are you guys doing here?" "Hee." Brenda chuckled as if Jack's question was funny. Then, she continued, "Of course, we're here to look out for our younger brother. I don't need it. I am okay. You can just go back. No need to worry about me." Jack was direct with his words. From childhood till this moment, he knew that flattering these half-siblings of his wouldn't do him good. So, he had always been cold and direct with them, not hiding his thoughts at all. "Bah, What's up with you, Jack? We've come all the way from Crystal City to pay you a visit, and this is all that we get. Brenda frowned as she asked, obviously pretending to be hurt. Jack bought none of her expression and said, I don't remember inviting you to find me. I might as well pay for your transportation costs back to Crystal City. Hey, chill it down, boy. You know, there's no need to hide things from you. You were banished from the family. Now, we're here to make sure that you're not using the family name. After all, you using the name would surely demean our family's reputation. Steve spoke at this moment. Jack stared at him with a blank expression on his face. Then, he said in a low voice, You know that I've never used the family name even while I was back in Crystal City. Why would I want to use it now? Are you sure? Because I am sure that you've got no money on you. If you're using the family's name to get someone to host you, then you have to break it immediately. After all, if you dare to do that, then our family would surely sue you. Steve said after a moment of silence. Jack, you in need of cash? HM? You can tell your sister here. She will surely give you some so that you don't live in streets. Brenda spoke with her signature sly smile. I've already said that I don't need your concern. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way now. As Jack said these words, he completely ignored the two as he went to the Bentley Continental GT. Opening the door, he got in before driving off. The two siblings were left both wide-eyed and slack-jawed. They had never expected that Jack would be driving a car that was worth millions even after he had come from the family. From what they knew, Jack was a frugal person, wanting to save all that he could. Even back at the family mansion, he had never bought a car like his half-brothers or cousins. Although the clothes that he was wearing were pretty decent for a person from Alfonso family, it wasn't up to par. Now, he had left the family mansion and he'd bought a car worth millions? From what they knew, the total amount of money that would have saved wouldn't be enough to buy a Bentley Continental GT. Do you think this car is his? Steve asked. Although he was older, he knew that when it came to intelligence, he was far below Brenda. From the way it is, I can see that it's new. That means that the car has been recently bought. But Jack doesn't have money to buy the car. So, it means that he has found someone to support him. He has borrowed the car or he had somehow gotten money from the family during his stay there. Brenda spoke with her eyes narrowed. For the first one, as far as I can remember, Jack has never left Crystal City. That means that he's got no connections here. The second one, since he has no connections here, there's no way that a person can give him a newly bought car. As for the third, I haven't gotten any information on money missing. And even if there was money missing, Jack was never given a responsibility, so it's impossible for him to get money. Brenda continued analyzing. As Steve heard all of this, he couldn't help but think to himself, what a frightening girl. The only thing that remains is that he has used the family influence to get someone to help him. And that person doesn't know that he's no longer a member of Alfonso family. Finally, Brenda came to a conclusion that she could accept. Steve remained silent all this while. He kept frowning while thinking, but there was nothing that he could think of that could match Brenda's thoughts. Brenda then glanced at the shop that Jack had just come from. She narrowed her eyes in suspicion. Then, her lips curled into a sly smile. She gazed towards the direction that Jack had left before saying, Let's get going. We need to find where this brat is getting money from. With that, the duo left the side as they headed towards the center of the city. Currently, Jack had a balance of $7,404,607. He wanted to purchase a building that would be used as the headquarters of Jackson Enterprise. But this amount wasn't enough to purchase a building that could host the reputation of an international-level enterprise. So he decided to discard that thought aside. He would have to collect enough cash before going for the purchase. He would have to buy the biggest office building in the city. As he thought of this, he immediately drove to the government office in charge of shops. He wanted to continue buying grocery stores so that he could earn more income. On his way, he thought of something important. Having many grocery shops was fine, but they needed management. So he would have to get himself a manager that could do that. He then made a decision. He would try and see if he could recruit a manager that was good in the grocery business. This way, he wouldn't need to worry about the issue of poor management of the stores. In about half an hour or more, he arrived at the office. He then marched through the familiar corridor that led to the office that he'd been to previously. When he reached the place that he'd collided with the lady the previous day, he stopped for a moment. For some strange reasons, his originally cold expression somehow melted as he revealed a rare smile. This smile perfectly matched his handsome face, making him show the charm that he was hiding. The blue eyes showed some kind of strange emotion that they hadn't shown since he was 15 years old. After a moment of remembering what had happened the previous day, as well as the beautiful face that matched her extraordinary temperament, Jack finally headed to the office. "Welcome, Mr. Jack." The man, whom had attended to Jack the previous day, immediately welcomed him. Jack nodded in response. After taking a seat, the man spoke. "Mr. Jack, since you told me that you wanted the grocery stores, I made sure to make enough preparations for you." Unlike the previous day, his attitude this time was flattering. After all, as long as Jack bought more shops under him, then the amount of money that he would receive at the end of the deal would be big enough for him to go on a vacation. So, since the previous day that Jack had wanted to purchase the shops, he made sure to get more shops that could be sold. He went as far as persuading some owners to sell their stores. He offered good prices for the stores, which some of the owners felt that there was no harm in gaining some profit. But of course, there were some that wouldn't agree to sell their stores, no matter what. For this reason, the man decided that he would look for the most expensive stores that could be sold. In this way, although the number of stores that would be sold would be low, but the amount of money that would be brought in would be enough. Jack went through the folder that he had been given. He was slightly surprised upon seeing that in less than 24 hours, the man had already gotten more than 15 stores ready to sell them. The thing that made Jack's eyes shine was the fact that all of these stores were big, the size of Comest or bigger. Although they were good, Jack immediately knew that the price of these stores would surely be higher. "What's the collective cost?" Jack asked after closing the folder and returning to the man. The man immediately smiled. "The total price of those 15 stores plus the stock and the employee's salary is $14,653,000. As he said the price, his smile grew wider. Jack thought for a moment. Although the price was high, he could see that the conditions of the stores were good. They were making profits, and good ones at that. Furthermore, they were located in different places of the city. That meant that Jack's influence was already around the city. If they were located in the same place, he would obviously buy one and ignore the other one. How could he make his two stores compete instead of using the money to buy another store dealing in another area? "I'll give you $5 million now. Tomorrow at around 10 in the morning, I'll send the remaining balance." "I don't know if that's okay with you." Jack made his decision. One thing that he wanted to make sure of was that his card would never be empty. He wanted to have money, just in case there was an emergency. "Of course, Mr. Jack. I'll immediately do that," the man said while laughing happily. In just 2 days, he had sold shops worth over 10 million. And what's more, there was tomorrow. "By the way, continue preparing the shops. As long as you make sure that the size is good and they're not competing with each other, then I'll buy them all," Jack stated. "Ha ha ha, sure, Mr. Jack," the man replied as he completely lost the etiquette of a government official.